I think it's now very evident that Tinubu have finally crippled the northern political powers and, of course, the Fulani elements, because seeing this man complaining bitterly about appointments being cornered by Southwest go to show that they are in great pain. And I don't know whether they not often forget in a hurry how Buhari managed Nigeria. Because the other time we saw Usman Yusuf, of course, the Secretary of Health Insurance Scheme, saying that Tinubu is annihilating the North. But this time around, looking at another man, of course, saying that the way and manner the Southwest is taking all the positions that is troubling the North. But I cannot forget in a hurry how the Buhari government cornered most of the lofty positions in Nigeria and how he neglected the whole of Southeast for 8 years. But just listen to this man and you'll be surprised that each time they not leave power, they are like a fish that is taken out of water and all their effort is to return to power. But I want to say that it doesn't matter the opinion, they must wait for another 4 years, meaning they must wait until 2031. By extension, the South must do their 8 years in Asura before a Northerner will return to Asura, because that original agreement that makes the North under Muhammad Buhari to spend 8 years must allow the South to complete their 8 years in Asura. But listen to the man and see for yourself, because it's a bit all imagination why they are complaining like this, because under their brother, they didn't complain. Just listen to him as we continue this conversation.
We cannot vote Tinubu for 2027 from the North. We cannot. It's right there we die. We cannot vote hungry. So funny, and the only appointment where it is appointing Yorubas from Lagos, not from Ogun, not from Ondo. Then we go voting for what? This person who is taking one side.
I think his name is Dr. Garas Galulu. He's not the first person to have complained. Like I told you the other day, we saw Usman Yusuf, the Secretary of National Health Insurance Scheme, making it very clear that the Tinubu is annihilating the North. According to him, that it is a political suicide. But for me, it is irrespective of his opinion. One thing I know is that the South must complete their 8 years in Asura. Because I understand that under Muhammad Buhari, he was emphatic that the Southeast gave him 5% attention and that they were going to, that the Southeast gave him 5% vote and that they were going to receive 5% attention. That he did for 8 years. And apart from that, we have seen, even when it comes to security positions, that government of Muhammad Buhari cornered 14 or 13 positions, leaving only just about 3 or 4 for the whole southern part of the country. When you talk about security positions, we are talking about positions like the Office of the National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Director General of DSS, IG of Police, the Director General of Custom, Drug Law. It's about 17. Under Muhammad Buhari, they not took about 14, leaving just about 3 for the whole southern part of the country. So it brings out the imagination why the northern elements who could not complain then are not complaining. Because when this government came up with the idea of establishing a military base in the southern part of the country, precisely in Oshobo, we saw their opposition. Personally, I am not against that, because I want to believe that those areas that gave the North undue advantage over the South, that there should be some balancing. So I'm particularly in support of that military base, training base in Oshobo. And again, when it comes to the issue of equally breaking the aviation college in Zaria into 6 geopolitical zones, I must say I'm for it, because we must address most of all these areas to bring balancing to our system. Even when we talk about the issue that has to do with, of course, some branch or rather department of CBN that was taken to southwestern part of the country, Lagos to be precise, I think I'm for it, because there's no way you look at it. Lagos is the economic hub of the country. And as at the time they needed to move those departments of CBN to Lagos State, it was for purpose of efficiency to move those departments to areas where they will achieve more results, where their services are better needed. But it's surprising that each time you see government making such move, the North will always rise to resist it. Even in recent time, when we saw the government, of course, when they tried to tinker with the idea of amending the constitution with respect to tax reform bills, we saw the North rising in with serious ferocity. And they objected every area that seeks to recognize and compensate areas where revenues is derived and areas where consumption is more. And as we have it, they use a number in National Assembly to expunge every area they felt were repugnant to their interests. But I want to even encourage Tinubu himself to revisit that area. As far as I'm concerned, there's every need to compensate areas where revenue is derived and area where consumption is more, because it will encourage other people to look inward and see what they can bring to the table. Because for the more you bring to the table, the more you take by virtue of what comes back to you. And again, we cannot forget how even the Buhari government borrowed a whopping sum of 30 trillion naira from CBN through ways and means. And unfortunately, as we speak, every effort to probe that borrowing and how the money was spent have been hitting brick wall in the National Assembly. Equally, how that same government spent a whopping sum of 1.9 billion US dollar to build a rail project from Kano State to Niger Republic. You begin to wonder and begin to ask, this is a project that has no economic value for Nigeria. What value is it bringing to Nigerian table that such money should be spent and tied down there? And the question is, why that government was doing all of this, not all the northerners who are complaining now were vocal. Even though Usman Yusuf claimed that he complained during that period, but the question is, why is it that his voice was not heard? But today, he has become a serious advocate for the North. I must say that the North must learn to tolerate other people in power. But let us equally look at the money the Buhari government spent on refineries, trying to fix the refineries, talking about our 4 refineries. We are talking about money that runs into almost 20 billion. You understand that even the government of the government of Muhammadu Buhari actually spent about 19.something billion trying to fix billion US dollar trying to fix our refineries. I begin to wonder, I begin to ask, as we speak, none of the refinery is working, and apart from the fact that it's not working, how much did a Dangote refinery cost to build? We are talking about 20 billion US dollar. So you're going to show that government wasted as much as 19.something billion US dollar in trying to fix our refineries. And nobody's talking, nobody's asking questions. So for me, I think the North must realize that there is every need to balance most of all these areas that give them undue advantage over the South. We are beginning to wonder, beginning to ask, why is it not having 19 states as against the 17 in the southern part of the country? I must say it's not acceptable, because it was the military that used their number, it was the military that used the undue advantage they had in the past to create the states. It is not as if there was a constitutional conference where people were represented and it was generally agreed that the states should be created in the manner it was created. It was the military that did it. And if you go to local government disposition, only Kano is having 44 local governments. Jigawa is having 27 local governments. Put together, that is 71 local governments. Whereas a place like Lagos is having like 25, Delta is having 25, Edo 18. You mean the one I'm going to ask, how come this they equally did through the undue advantage they had during the military? Personally, my experience with the North, Jigawa to be precise, I understood that even the local government system in that part of the country do not work. Because if you are posted to a local government to do your youth service in Jigawa State, I don't know the situation now anyway, what they will tell you is bike, meaning there's no work. By implication, if you go to the local government secretariat, there's no activity. The local government chairman, the staff, nobody come to work. From the beginning of the month to the end of the month, the only day and the only time they come is when the allocation comes. Once everybody come at the end of the month, everybody take their salary, everybody take their money, the councillors go with their money, everybody deserts the local government. They wait for another end of the month. So it's a monthly ritual. We're meant to understand then that the local government chairman of that particular local government, of course, stays in Kano State. He only show up at the end of the month. So now, if someone is to tinker with the idea of those revenue sharing formula, it is evident that those people in those parts of the country will resist with the last blood in their vein, because they have been eating from where they do not sow. They have been leveraging on federal government money in the name of money from FAC. Whereas, if you go to other states, local government, you see activities from day one of the month to the end of the month. You see local government staffs going out there to generate revenue for the local government. But in most part of the north, I use Jigawa as an example, there is no activity in their local government secretariat. So somebody will now wake up and say, okay, let us review the sharing formula of the revenue. Definitely, they will resist it. And I think that is what we saw in that last attempt to review the revenue sharing formula through those tariff reform bills. That's why I encourage the president to revisit that bill. Because for me, there's every need to ensure that those who produce get more, those who consume get more, as a way of encouraging other people to look inward and see what they can bring to the table. But again, you may no wonder ask, why is it that in the southeastern part of the country, they have 5 states, as again the 6 in other geographical zones? This is another serious area of marginalization against the southeast in particular, and against the south in general. Because I want to believe that if all is to be working well, that idea coming from the senator representing Delta North Senatorial District, where he's trying to cover Anyama State to add to the southeastern part of the country to make it 6 states in the southeastern region, I want to believe that it should be given an attention and encourage everybody that believes in national cohesion, whether the level of the Senate, House of Rep members, even the presidency, to see it as a necessity. Because if that Anyama State is created and added to the southeastern part of the country, that will make it 6 states in the southeastern part of the country. And apart from the 6 states in the southeastern part of the country, it will now become 18 states in the north as against 19 states in the... It will now become 18 states in the south as against the 19 states in the north. But currently, it's 19 against 17. So I want to believe that it is a priority, that it is an agenda that should be given priority, talking about the states that should be created to make up 6 states in the southeastern part of the country, by extension, the southeast geopolitical zone. Because if you look at how the zones were even created, it was equally created during the military, and then precisely under the regime of Abacha, equally a northerner. So the military then, under the northern figures, were taking turn like people in the relay race, changing government like people who are changing baton in the relay race. So they did all they did through their power to use decree. Because during the military, there was nothing like National Assembly. It was the military that decided whatever they want to do. The ones they wake up and said they were going to do decree, the decree stands. And if you want to even challenge the current status quo, somebody will tell you, go to National Assembly. And begin to ask, how did we come about the numbers, representations in the National Assembly? It was done by the military. And somebody want you to go to National Assembly that is already dominated, by the North through that or advantage they had when the military created those states, local governments, and all of that. And I must say very thank you for time. This is Sadla Media and I'm Mr. Watu.